Hello, good people. My name is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And I'm back again. I just did this the other day and I'm already back. Hey, get used to it. It's the way it is now. This is the new me. What are we talking about today? I want to submit to you that we should stop calling people gay. Just let that wash over you for a moment. I don't mean stop calling each other gay. You know how we used to say, hey, man, that's gay, kind of in the pejorative sense. Some people say we should stop doing that. I'm not so convinced about that, but we really should stop using the term altogether. We should stop calling people gay, not because of the making fun of something or calling something bad, but we should stop calling people gay because it is language that concedes the high ground in the cultural war and the battle to establish a certain ethic, I think a biblical ethic about sexuality. Now, you might say, how is that? So let me flesh this out for you. In battle, it is well understood that whoever has the high ground has the advantage, right? Now, I don't understand how that works exactly. I've never been in battle. I'm not a soldier. I've never been in war, but it's a pretty well-known fact. If you got the high ground, you got the advantage. If you're in the low ground, you better be careful because if you go attack the enemy, that could end up very bad for you. Okay. There's an equivalent whenever there is an ideological struggle, right? What we typically would call a culture war, right? And oftentimes what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish a common standard that we can all live by and adopt. And when people don't have the same values and have the same ethics, then this creates conflict. So what we have to do is we have to come together, we have to talk, we have to kind of duke it out a little bit until a certain view prevails. And what's happening is that anytime, whenever side of the cultural war or the ideological dispute, whatever side gets to determine what words you use and whatever side gets to kind of frame the argument, they have the high ground. Now, it should be noted that some time ago, whenever the OGTV community, the LGBTQ AI plus minus sign divided by sign, whenever they started, I shouldn't do that. I know people get mad because, you're saying you're making fun of them. I'm not trying to make fun of them. It's just there's just a lot of letters and I don't know them all. Okay. But just listen to this. Some people have noted that back when the activists within that community, when they started to make their push for what they called at the time acceptance, and now we understand what's much deeper than that. They started to use the term bigot to describe people who did not accept the lifestyle, right? They used the term bigot. Now, formerly, that term almost always referred to someone who discriminated against someone because of an immutable characteristic, right? The immutable characteristic like race or sex, for example. So this denotes, however, a shift in their fundamental argument and a shift in the way they were presenting themselves to the world. Because formerly, we thought about those who participated in the OGTV lifestyle. We thought about them as committing, acts that were immoral, right? And we didn't see it as a part of their personhood. But you see, that's when they changed the argument, and that's when everything started to shift, because that's when they started to say, I don't do gay things. I am gay. I do not participate in random acts, right? This is my personhood. This is my identity. And when it switched to that, not only did they say it's their identity, but this is the key here. The claim is that there is an immutable, innate nature such that can never be changed under any circumstances and in any way. And thus, they are making the claim that their appetites and impulses are immutable, unchangeable, and they were born that way, to quote Lady Gaga. Well, the question is this true? Is this an accurate description of the state of a person who is same-sex attracted? That they have innate, immutable appetites? Well, I will concede that many people may have a predisposition to that. I'm not going to sit here and say that people just wake up one day and say, "Hey, I think I want to be gay." I will concede that, but that's not the question. The question is that whether it's immutable, whether it is permanent, whether it is something that no matter what you do, this is what you are. And that, my friends, I have to say, is demonstrably false. It is empirically false because we have scores and scores, I would say thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe even millions. I would say probably on the order of millions. Now I don't know how many people were formerly of the lifestyle, who came to Christ and now can attest that they had a change of affections. But I know some of these people personally. I'm not keeping account. I'm not the official counter of people who have come out of LGBTQ lifestyles. But I know there's more than a few. I've met these people. I know some of them personally. Not to mention the fact that from my own personal experience, one thing that's interesting about this conversation is that sometimes people of the OGTV community, and I say OGTV because it's fun to say and it's a little easier to say. People act like they're the only ones who have to toe the line of biblical sexuality. What you will find out is that as a man, or as any person who has come out of a darkness and into the light, that you have to bring your own sexuality to the table. You have to put that on the altar to be mortified and crucified as well. So you're not the only person's toeing the line. And when you decide to toe the line, and when you decide to put your sexuality on the altar and commit that to God and commit to God's standards, you learn a little bit about your own development, your own appetite, your own triggers. It doesn't go away right away, but you do learn how to cultivate the right attitudes, the right impulses, and you know how to feed certain things and starve other things. Your thought life, the things you watch, the things you engage in, right? The Bible says keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. If you don't believe in the Bible, there's another equivalent statement, which is that you have to eat from the garden of your mind, so be careful what you plant. It's the same thing. This idea of an immutable so-called orientation is very modern, it's very Freudian, and it's not a biblical category. So you see, when the OGTV community and the activists started to say, no, this is not something that I do, this is what I am, and then when we adopted their language and we conceded that high ground, we put ourselves at a very big disadvantage. If they say, I am gay, and then that's how you regurgitate, and that's how you talk about, you say, oh yeah, that's a gay person right there. Then you've adopted their language. You've conceded a certain truth about their view of themselves and about their worldview that isn't biblical and that isn't empirically verified. This is really interesting because there are two things that those in the OGTV community, activists and so-called allies, will not acknowledge. They won't acknowledge, for example, the detransitioners, right? They act like these people don't exist. And they also act like people who were formerly of the OGTV lifestyle were in same-sex relationships and now are in healthy, productive, so-called. See, this is the new thing that we have to train ourselves to do, right? Because whenever we say, if we're going to say that we shouldn't use the term gay, then we also shouldn't use the term heterosexual because they're basically two sides of the same coin. So when I say that they were formerly in a gay relationship, I am again adopting language that concedes the point that they're making. They went from a gay relationship to a heterosexual relationship. There's no gay relationship and heterosexual relationship. There are same-sex relationships, and there are opposite sex relationships. One of them is sanctioned by God. One of them is capable of reproducing. The other one is not. One builds societies. The other one will, if everyone adopted it, would literally hasten the death of society because we wouldn't be able to replace ourselves. So now I've adopted this new standard, this new language. I don't say someone is gay. If I have to use the language, I'll use language that, people, you have to adopt language that is commonly understood. So I would say something like so-called gay people, or I'll use scare quotes, or so-called heterosexual people. But you see, when we adopt these concepts, when we adopt the language of those who we are in an ideological struggle with, then we concede the premises of their worldview. And this is why I think, politically, for example, on the left, they are so fond of controlling language, changing words. They don't want you to call someone an illegal immigrant. They want you to call them an undocumented alien or something like that. So an undocumented. What do you mean undocumented? Undocumented is just a softer way. It basically takes all of the moral implications out of their status. See, when you say illegal, that means that they broke the law. When you say undocumented, that just means, hey, they have a right to be here. They just hadn't got their papers yet. You see, once you start to adopt their language, you concede the high ground. And this is something that we should not do. So I say we should stop calling people gay. And this is what I contest. I contest that calling people gay is tantamount to using preferred pronouns. Now just let that wash over you. Because you may not have seen it that way, but if someone used preferred pronouns, and I think there are many in the Christian community who would understand that. They would say, I can't use preferred pronouns because that's lying, right? I'm referring to someone in a way that is untrue, that does not accurately reflect their true nature and their state. Well, so does calling them gay. When you say someone is gay, you are conceding that their personhood is defined by their sexual appetites. There are no gay people. There are no heterosexual people. There are men and there are women. And God has a prescribed and assigned role for men and an assigned and prescribed role for women. And God expects us to adopt those roles and standards that includes our sexual relationships. In the beginning, God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. He did not give them a immutable, innate, quote, orientation. That's a very Freudian, non-biblical category. And if you want more on this, if you think this just is a fringe idea, there's a guy who I follow out there. His name is Becket Cook. I love Becket. Just look up Becket. Becket was in the LGBTQ lifestyle for decades, I think, as far as I understand. The Lord marvelously saved him, and now he's on fire for God. He and another person who I think is fantastic, her name is Rosario Butterfield. She was a lesbian and a feminist activist for many years. And now she's married and has children and is in a fantastic relationship with her husband. And so they're having this conversation, and there's another gentleman. I can't remember his name at the moment. He's an Asian gentleman. But you should look this up. The title of the video is "There's No Such Thing as a Gay Person." Just look it up on YouTube. I encourage you. It's a long conversation, but I encourage you to watch it because they are basically saying what I'm saying, which is that we should speak with biblical language. We should only accept biblical categories. And whenever they insist that we use language that betrays the accuracy and truth of reality, we should reject that. And so I am making the pledge today never to call another person gay. And I invite you to do the same. It also means you can't call people heterosexual. You're not a heterosexual. I'm a man. I have a wife, and so I'm in a relationship with a woman. I'm married. That's all you need to know. I'm married. So, friends, I'm curious to see what you think. Just let me know. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Hey, if you like this content, please tell a friend about it. And of course, I do want to hear from you. I want to know what you think. Am I going too far? Does this sound silly? Am I trying to take am I taking this too far? I'd like to hear from you. Leave me a comment. Can't wait till the next time, and I'll see you real soon. God bless you.